deity worthy worship and truth except Allah alone. He has no partners, and all dominions is his. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is his messenger and son of all the prophets. First of all, I just want to thank the people that invited us out here, the brother Amir, the brothers from Queens that also invited me out here. You don't thank the people, you don't thank Allah. My life is similar to the two brothers over here on my left. I was once involved in the music industry. I was in a group called The Outlaws with a guy by the name of Tupac Shakur. I got introduced to Tupac through his half-brother by the name of Yafeo. When Pac put this group together, he said that he wanted to be different than all the other rap groups out there. He wanted to give us names of so-called tyrants of the world, so-called enemies of the West, etc. After he put this group together, The Outlaws, the first record that I performed on, like the brothers, they sold millions of records. So for me, this is what I thought life was all about. I made it out of the hood from New Jersey. I sold millions I'm on records that sold 40 million records worldwide. And I got to the point in my life when I started to make a lot of money. Every 6 months, the brothers know that royalty checks come every 6 months. And we would get a check for $300,000 this month. Another 6 months, $250,000. To the point that at one point in my life, I had 3 brand new houses, brand new cars. Anything that you might can imagine in this world I had, but the only thing I didn't have was happiness. And I used to tell myself and ask myself, how come that I had these houses? How come that I had this money, cars, etc.? But deep in my heart, I felt depressed. A lot of people don't know, especially the youngsters from the inside looking out, from the outside looking in on television, like the brothers mentioned, you see these rappers with bling bling, jewelry, cars, but 99% of them, if not all of them, they was in the same position that we was in, they unhappy. It's another side of that life story that you guys don't know about. If most of the youngsters, unfortunately, they think the only way to get happiness in this type of life is having some type of materialistic thing, something they can hold in their hand. So to the point that you even got Muslims that compromise their religion, sacrifice their religion, just to get a piece of this dunya by any means necessary. Most of the people in the music industry, like myself, when I was looking for some type of happiness, because when I got to that point with houses, I started to experiment with different type of drugs. And I noticed that the drugs that I was taking, a couple hours later, it would wear off, and I'll be depressed again. I started to experiment with alcohol to the point that I became an alcoholic. Every single day of my life, I was drinking alcohol, hard alcohol. And I noticed I wake up sober the next day, and I feel ashamed of something that I did last night, and it made me want to go get drunk again. And I used to always ask myself, if I'm not finding happiness through the money, through the jewelry, through the cars, where can I find some type of happiness from? At this point in my life, Tupac, he got murdered in Las Vegas. A couple months before Tupac died, my grandmother raised me died. 2 months later after Tupac died, my childhood friend, the guy that introduced me to Tupac and the half-brother of Tupac, he got killed by a little cousin of mine. So right there, I started to get curious about death. And I noticed I used to pray to God because I've always been a firm believer that a person cannot live life the way they want to live life, and when they drop dead, they go to their grave and it's over. So I got curious about death. And I happened to be one day in the parking lot, and I got into a fight with my little brother, and it happened to be a Muslim that broke the fight up. And he invited me to the masjid. He gave me the English translation of the Quran, and when the first time that I ever read the English translation of the Quran, I knew for a fact right there that this book cannot be written by a man. And I got to a verse in the Quran that hit me, is when Allah said that every soul shall taste death. And it hit me so hard because I noticed in 1 year the death of my grandmother, the death of Tupac, the death of Yafeo, Gaddafi, and that same year I had my oldest brother Salik, he committed suicide. And the more that I read the Quran, everything that I was looking at, Allah says it in the Quran. Allah says in the Quran, for example, truly the hearts find tranquility in the remembrance of Allah. I was looking for tranquility in alcohol, money, and like I said, this was temporary happiness. A lot of people, a lot of us, we get into the music industry because this is an easy, fast way to make it out of the hood. And there was a time in my life that me and a brother, Amir, we probably would have never been on stage together. I come from the Outlaws with Tupac and Death Row Records. He come from Puff, Sean Puffy Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, he changed his name every year, but he come from Sean Combs. And it was a time in our life that we was enemies with each other. It was a time in my life that I had so much hatred for anybody to do with Bad Boy Records because I believed that they wanted to kill me. When Tupac got shot 5 times in New York, we said they was from Bad Boy Records, these are enemies, etc. And there's verses in the Quran that Allah says that only He can bring your hearts together. And I will read that verse, inshallah. I don't know the Arabic, so I'll read the English translation, inshallah. And it's in Surah Al-Imran, verse 103. And Allah says, hold fast all of you together to the rope of Allah and be not divided among yourselves. And remember Allah's favor on you. For you were once enemies to one another, but He joined your hearts together so that by His grace you became brothers in Islam. And you were on the brink of a pit of fire, and He saved you from it. Thus Allah makes His ayahs proof clear to you that you may be guided. And that verse, man, wallahi, the brother Amir can tell you that we was once enemies to amongst each other. When I got the phone call that the brother was Muslim, wallahi, it was the best feeling that I had since I became Muslim. Because now this is my brother in Islam and I love him for the sake of Allah. And it was Allah that brought our hearts together. The Million Man March couldn't do it. Farrakhan tried the Million Man March to bring the rappers together, the rap summers. None of that could have brought out the death of Tupac. None of that brought our hearts together until I heard that he accepted the religion of Islam. Also in the music industry, most of us is living in darkness. Most of us, man, we was living worse than cattle, like Allah says in the Quran. And a lot of the people, unfortunately, the shaitan beautified this type of lifestyle. But we here to tell the youth, man, that wallahi, that lifestyle has nothing good to offer. The only way we will find some type of honor and some type of respect is sticking to the Quran and the Sunnah. If Allah is our creator, and He's the one that created the heavens and the earth, and He knows what's best for us, and He sent down this Quran, and He tells us that we have to live our life this way, we cannot go outside of the religion of Islam thinking we fooling Allah, thinking that it's another way to give some type of respect on the street, it's another way to get some type of honor. We will only be fooling ourselves at the end. And also as a verse in the Quran where I would like to mention, because the brother Shadid, not to put him on point, but when he told me this verse in the Quran, wallahi, it was the way we was living our life. And we was living in darkness, and it was only from the religion of Islam that was able to guide us to basically, when I accepted the religion, it was as if Allah lifted the veil from over my eyes. And this is a verse in the Quran, when Allah says in Surah Al-An'am, verse 122, is he who was dead without faith, ignorance, disbelief, and we gave him life, and set for him a light of belief where he can walk amongst men, like him who was in darkness of disbelief, polytheism, and hypocrisy, from which he can never come out. Thus it is made fair seeming to the disbelievers that which they used to do. And the brothers on the stage, man, we can bear witness that we was living in darkness. We was living in a lifestyle that the only way we was finding some type of tranquility was in the disobedience of Allah. And now that we Muslim, wallahi, man, there's no better feeling than know that you have a chance to make it to Jannah, inshallah. So we just want to tell the people, if there's any non-Muslims out here, if there's anybody interested into Islam, there's many of people here that you can talk to. The sister, if there's any females that can approach the Muslim woman, any males that can approach some of the brothers that was up here talking before us, the student of knowledge, and Shadid, Abu Muhammad, Maghri, and the brother Muhammad. We ask you guys to don't feel shame to come and approach the brothers if you have any questions about the religion of Islam. We just want to thank y'all for inviting us once again. Jazakallah khair for your time.
نور السماوات والأرض مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح المصباح في زجاجة الزجاجة كأنها كوكب